back again. Can you focus, please? Thank you. Hello, 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 and welcome home. No, I'm just kidding. Hello, 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 and welcome back. What's up? How are you? I hope you're all doing amazing. I hope you're having shut up. I hope you're having a great day. Today it's 8 p.m. I'm filming 4 videos in one day, so bear with me if I can't speak. Today we're going to be doing a fanfiction reading. So I actually wrote this fanfiction. Yes, I'm an Atsushi cosplay. I'm reading a Sushigawa fanfiction. So if you don't know who Sushigawa is, it's Atsushi and Octagawa from Bungo Stray Dogs. Absolutely amazing ship. I kin both of them. Atsushi more so than Octagawa. Atsushi's my biggest kin. Octagawa's like a vibe, you know? So I don't know what's wrong with me, sorry. I should really be in a worse mood. I was just filming Extreme Angst, literally crying. Anyways, if my makeup's messed up, that's why. Fanfiction called A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence. It's written by myself. I wrote it. Publishing fanfictions, for starters, is already a very big step for me. I've never shared my writing besides with Vanessa before Moonlight. I started publishing Moonlight I think last March, and that was the first time I ever shared my writing with anyone. So it's a pretty big step for me, but I'm very proud of A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence. I actually think I might be more proud of this fanfiction than I am of Moonlight, and I love Moonlight. Moonlight is a Voltron fanfiction, and I've also written a Boku one, which I like, but like A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence just really hits different for me. I don't know why. I'm going to be reading that today. It's on my AO3, which is Callisto Kavali, if you want to check it out. And yeah, I've gotten so much support on it too, which is so freaking awesome because I really liked it, but I was very nervous to post it. I'm not really quite sure why. Atsushi is a very big kin for me. I don't really know how to like articulate how it felt. It just felt really personal, even though something like this has literally never happened to me before. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big old thumbs up. If you're new, you can subscribe and click the bell. That way every single time I post a new video, you get notified. I post sporadically, so watch out for that. You can also follow all of my other socials linked in the card go below, and the merch shop. A new launch is coming out in 2022, and there's still a lot of My Hero, Genshin, some JJK merch, maybe in the future some Bungo Stray Dogs merch. Anyway, let's just get into it. I'm a little nervous to read it, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know why, because like it's something I wrote, like I should be proud, but I'm still violently nervous. Oh my god, 36 kudos and 3 bookmarks! I'm crying! Okay, so it's called A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence. The summary is Atsushi and Octagawa are nothing more than 2 people who violently despise each other. So why was Atsushi standing before Octagawa's apartment door? And why does Ryunosuke invite him in again? They just kiss. So if anyone doesn't like that, please click out. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable with my stories. Oh, look at Atsushi if he had glasses. Okay, it is 4,556 words. All right, let's go, shall we? Truthfully, they hated everything about one another. Even after growing up side by side, never bothering to take a single moment to talk about their impending issues, they couldn't stand the sight. Yet they always ended up seeking the other out. The universe took their hatred for each other personally and decided to throw them together any chance they got, ending up in the same homeroom since they were in grade school, getting paired up for projects that lasted for months on end, eating lunch in the library. Before they knew it, they became violently familiar with one another, but never reliant. They most definitely are not friends. At least, that's what Octagawa kept insisting. Atsushi doesn't dwell on it too much. He figures, at the end of the day, nobody wants to be friends with him. That's something he came to terms with all too early in life. He's still sorting through the broken pieces of his wretched heart, learning to calm his negative thoughts and heal from all the bullshit he endured as a child. Until he fixed himself, friends and relationships were a no-no. Until he found himself worthy enough to take up space on this floating rock of misery, he'd keep everyone at a healthy distance. There's no reason to pull innocent people into the hellacious train wreck of his mind. But still, Atsushi couldn't help but care too much for the well-being of others. But Octagawa isn't supposed to be one of those people. No. His all-too-composed classmate, who was notorious for throwing hellish insults Atsushi's way and only referring to him as Jinko, isn't someone he wants to spend his free time with. So why Atsushi ended up standing before Octagawa's apartment door, fiddling with his fingers as he battled the demons in his mind, he doesn't know. Maybe I shouldn't know, Atsushi whispered to himself as he stands eye to eye with Octagawa's flat number, his heart thumping at its normal pace, which is still too fast for the average person. The collar of his cream turtleneck seemed as if it was closing in around his throat. So what are you gonna do? Just walk in? Of course. Wait. As Atsushi whips his head to the side, Octagawa, in all his midnight glory, stands stagnant, sporting his usual look of annoyance, though the bag under his eyes is a telltale sign of why he was up this late in the first place: insomnia. He holds a plastic grocery bag in his hand, probably from the convenience store right beneath their apartment complex. Oh yes. Did Atsushi fail to mull over how he and Octagawa are next-door neighbors? When he moved into this complex, not too far from their shared college campus, he went to check his mail late in the evening and bumped into Octagawa in the lobby. After arguing, then agreeing that they would never speak and go on pretending that the other didn't exist, Atsushi, in the comfort of his average apartment he considered to be too fancy, called Dazai complaining about the whole fiasco, to which his mentor responded with uncontrollable laughter and a "gotcha sucker" before the line went dead. He should have known Osamu had a trick up his sleeve when he told Atsushi about this too-good-to-be-true housing opportunity. "What are you doing here?" Octagawa asks flatly, his hands in his trench coat pockets turning over the hot hands in his palms to warm his frigid fingers. hours? I don't really know. Atsushi answers a bit too honest for his own liking. He could have definitely mustered up an excuse, but his brain likes to short circuit at the most inconvenient of times. Nearly 10 seconds too late, he decides I ran out of butter would be the perfect cover-up. Maybe he'll use it next time, because there will definitely be a next time. Who folds first is the only mystery in their strange relationship. Akutagawa sighs, like he's trying a bit too hard to seem annoyed, an unusual faint smirk resting across his lips. He steps between Atsushi and the entryway, pulling the keys from his pocket and undoing the lock. He opens the door, wide, silently inviting Nakajima inside, but as Atsushi is about to step through the threshold, Ryu holds up his hand and says, "Get the child." Atsushi snickers, but does what he's told, striding back to his apartment and returning with a silver tabby, lounging lazily in his arms. Akutagawa really smiles this time, reaching out to scratch the fur ball on his head and greeted him with a soft, "Hello, tiger." This is one of the few times Akutagawa expresses emotion. He has a soft spot for animals, especially cats. When Atsushi reflects on their unprompted encounters growing up, they regularly ran into each other at a local cat cafe. A quiet one no one in their high school knew about, save for each other. It was a small store away from the busy main streets of Yokohama City, with the bay in close proximity, and the infamous bridge towering over the water. Occasionally, Akutagawa and Atsushi would study till the sun set over the horizon, and the lights of the bridge made the water glisten like a river made of diamonds. They would leave only during closing hours, but found themselves back there any chance they got. Atsushi resting on the love seat in the back corner of the building, near a large bay window, and Akutagawa opting for a tatami mat on the opposite side of the cafe, drinking tea and petting any cat that chose to lie in his lap. It was always warm there. The food was always good and cheap. The employees were comfortable with their presence. It's the only place in the entire world where Atsushi didn't feel like a burden, where he could just live rather than survive. Maybe that's why they ended up harboring the same love for these fuzzy beasts, ending up on nearly the same career path, besides the fact Atsushi is studying to work in animal rescue while Akutagawa works toward becoming a vet. Man, Atsushi complains as he steps through the doorway into Ryunosuke's home that looks nearly identical to his own, save for the very dark academia decorating Akutagawa surrounds himself with. Despite the dusky furniture and the maroon rug in the center of the living space, the room was always dripped in soft yellow lighting. Atsushi thinks that's his favorite part about Akutagawa's apartment. Whenever he stepped foot in here, it always felt like he was being wrapped in a fuzzy blanket burrito, or sitting by a warm fire on a cold winter night. If only you were as nice to me as you are to my cat, then maybe we'd get along. Don't act so innocent, Akutagawa scoffs as he shuts the door behind them, then slips off his shoes and places them next to Nakajima's. You and I both know the only reason you hang around here is for Rashomon. Where is that little devil? Mutters a few moments later. As Atsushi places Tiger on the wooden floor of the flat and shucks off his black winter coat, words start spilling over his tongue involuntarily. That's not the only reason I hang around here. The second it slips out of his mouth, he regrets it. Akutagawa freezes in place, bent over, sifting through the bag of things he bought only a half hour ago, clearly shocked by the white-haired man's previous statement. I mean, Atsushi starts, the shakiness in his voice more present than he would like to admit. You have the best couch in the neighborhood! And he throws himself back onto it, forgetting how firm it is and getting the wind knocked out of him in the process. He withholds a pained grunt and settles for rubbing the small of his back when Akutagawa isn't looking. Why his neighbor chose this cushionless monstrosity as a chair he lounges in at the end of the day, Atsushi doesn't know. But at least his diversion made Ryu fall back into motion. Atsushi's gaze follows him as he crosses from the foyer into the kitchen, and he continues to watch in silence through the pass-through window. As the circle chandelier comes flickering on, Akutagawa begins stocking his matte black fridge with the goodies he picked up from the market. Once he finishes, he stalks over to the sink and rinses out an electric kettle, swishing the water around the container till he's thoroughly satisfied with his cleanliness, and then continues filling it with fresh water. As he sets it on the heating plate and presses the switch, he shuffles around the kitchen, pulling 2 mugs from the confines of the charcoal lacquer cabinets and setting them on top of the counter, grabbing 2 tea bags from the pantry and a milk along with sugar from the fridge. He begins preparing 2 cups of tea, one with lots of milk and sugar and the other with only a small splash of each. Sometimes it amazes Atsushi how much information Akutagawa has retained about him. The littlest of details. The way he takes his tea, his distaste for sleeping alone, the way he fiddles with his fingers when he's anxious, how his stomach does backflips anytime he hears a noise that's the slightest bit too loud and abrupt. Maybe you shouldn't be surprised. After all, it's not as if Atsushi doesn't know Ryunosuke like the back of his hand. He can tell Akutagawa's mood by the slightest twitch in his thin eyebrows. The glasses he should wear when he studies lay tucked beneath a box of tissues in his nightstand drawer. He prefers to sleep in utter silence in case an intruder were to break into his home. He hates cinnamon and claims it tastes like dirt, yet always adds a teaspoon of it to his morning coffee. He has a collection of black trench coats and a strange love for any and all things Harry Potter. He took a liking to the books when they were back in middle school. Severus Snape is his favorite. He hates video games, especially anything with fast movements because it gives him motion sickness, and he suffers from severe asthma. He takes breathing treatments once a week. There's a nebulizer on the top shelf of his closet, zipped into an airtight bag. Atsushi keeps an extra inhaler on him at all times as a precaution, though Akutagawa is unaware. He sleeps shirtless with the heat on, and his left leg twitches when he's streaming. When he has nightmares, he curls into a ball in order to calm his own fears. He hates being touched. Maybe it's because he's never been held, cradled, cared for. So every now and again, Atsushi offers him a gentle hand. And maybe that's what friends do for each other, what friends know about each other. Then again, Nakajima wouldn't exactly call this friendship. Rashomon! Atsushi calls. There's a pause, then comes the clicking of a tag against a bell. At the end of the short hallway, past an open bedroom door, a black cat with a small white patch of hair on his chest emerges from the darkness, his eyes squinting as he enters the soft glow of the hallway, clearly adjusting to the drastic change in lighting. He hops onto the backrest of the couch, his claws sinking into the cushion to steady himself. He sticks his nose to the ceiling, his nostrils flare and his eyes shut. Atsushi imitates Rashomon, which results in the feline jumping onto his chest and rubbing his cheek across Atsushi's nose. Through his thick sweater, he can still feel those needle-like claws that have left tiny scars on his limbs. Atsushi bursts into a fit of giggles as Rashomon repeatedly sniffs his face and gives him the smallest kitten licks every now and again. Once the feline is satisfied with the interaction, he leaps onto the wooden floor. As Akutagawa treads into the living space, two teacups in hands, the cats can be heard chasing each other around the apartment, the bells ringing in tandem as they play. Atsushi rises, his palms pushing against the couch as he scooches himself to one side. As he begins to swing his legs over the armrests and onto the floor, Akutagawa takes a seat and then pulls Atsushi's calves onto his lap. Naturally, he stiffens in shock. His pulse rises under the collar of his turtleneck. What the hell is happening right now? Akutagawa, as if this is a normal occurrence, sips his tea. As if Atsushi's legs aren't resting on top of his thighs. As if he's not gently stroking his calf with the pad of his thumb through black cuffed pants. It's domestic, thoughtful, and nurturing. All the things Atsushi knew Akutagawa could be if he wanted to. But did he want to? Or was he appeasing him, toying with him, seeing right through Atsushi's frenemies act? Has he discovered the real reason Atsushi hung around here? Could all of his burning desire be so easily spotted? And if it could, what gave it away? Was it the knocks on the door in the middle of the night? When his pounding heart threatens to shatter his ribcage from its sheer force? Was it because he spent more evenings tucked under Akutagawa's gray sheets than his own? Had he given himself away? What is it? Akutagawa asks from behind his mug of tea. His eyes aren't even on Atsushi. Instead, they're staring straight ahead at the TV, sitting on the entertainment center directly beneath the pass-through window, glued to the digital flames burning on the television screen. It's the closest thing they've gotten to a fireplace in this tight city apartment. It stays on through the night, even when Akutagawa is fast asleep behind the closed door of his bedroom. He claims it keeps him warm. Atsushi thinks it's equally as cute as it is stupid. Through the corner of his eye, Akutagawa takes a gentle peek at Atsushi, who is still frozen in place, his palms leaving dents in the couch cushion. Atsushi stutters, trying to formulate a response but too overwhelmed with the gentle, yet chilling touch to spit out any nonsense other than syllables of broken words and gasps for air. In all of his 20 years of living, you think he would have picked up a thing or two, but alas, he's still an awkward son of a fuck. Behind the rim of his cup, Akutagawa smiles. He turns back to the TV set and calmly says, "Relax, Jinko." In the same voice Atsushi has grown accustomed to falling to sleep to. While he runs the flat of his palm up to Atsushi's knee, then back down again, the latter opts to lean back, grabbing his mug from the side table behind him and taking a sip of his tea. It's good. Really good. Sweet, just the way he likes it. He lounges on the sofa once again, his teacup resting in the center of his chest while his hands steady its frame. His head's propped on the armrest and his legs are still sprawled out across Akutagawa's. It's 12:15. They sit in comfortable silence. The only sound is that of the bustling streets a few stories below them. The kitchen light is off now, the only source of light being the TV screen and the radiant cityscape sweeping in through the large picture window wall to the right of the sofa. It's peaceful like this. Atsushi decides that if he had the choice to spend the rest of his evenings like this, he would. "What are you thinking about?" Atsushi asks. His eyes flicker over to Okutagawa's tranquil form. He has his sharp chin tucked into the loose collar of his gray knit sweater, his nose peeked out of the rim. Something about the way Ryunosuke lounges reminds Atsushi of innocence, the kind neither of them got to experience. It's pure, and it's out of the realm of what they're used to, but it brings Atsushi a sense of hope, like maybe there's still some left for them. Penguins. Okutagawa answers absent-mindedly, and a few moments later, Atsushi finally bursts into a fit of laughter. The response so very unique, yet so very him. I thought, he chokes through his wheezing, you look so concentrated I thought that you were going to say something philosophical. He places his mug on a coffee table in front of them and wipes away a few stray tears. He doesn't get the chance to laugh often. But every time he does, it seems to be with Okutagawa. As Atsushi settles back into the couch cushion, the dark-haired man replies through a smile while dipping his tea bag in and out of the steaming drink in his hand. Philosophy has never been my forte. And Atsushi wonders how he never noticed the deep contours pulling at Okutagawa's cheeks when he smiles. It almost pisses him off, the way the length of Ryu's hair has the audacity to hide something so wonderful and warm. Something that should be put on display at the Yokohama Museum of Fine Arts just down the road from their college so the rest of the world could admire it too. There's a part of Atsushi urging him to reach out and run his fingers over the lines of his expression. Not to smooth them, but to simply ascertain where each canyon and summit begins and ends. It's just a fleeting desire, Atsushi thinks, until he processes Okutagawa's skin beneath his palms, and a hushed voice speaking obscenely close to his face. What is it, Jinko? And his voice rasps in a manner Atsushi has never had the pleasure of hearing before. For whatever reason, he would prefer if that line played on loop in his mind for the next decade and a half. It's strange because Okutagawa isn't even fazed by the lack of distance between them, nor by Atsushi's finger pads dancing across his cheek. It's terrifying in an exciting kind of fashion. There's these light smoky eyes looking at him with such intensity as his smile begins to falter, and Atsushi concludes that now is a good time to let go, lay off, to lean back and pretend nothing happened. Maybe say, there's just a tea leaf on your face, and move on with their evening. Maybe even grab his coat along with his cat and take a hike. He should. He really should. Yet the soft skin beneath him compels Nakajima to stay. He studies his features for a moment, the creases by his gray eyes, the slightest indentation at the point of his nose, the length of Ryu's mouth and how perfectly it would fit over his own. Then Okutagawa is playfully opening his lips and shifting while his breath is hovering over the print of Atsushi's thumb. He takes the tough skin between his sharp canines but refrains from puncturing the skin. As Nakajima pulls in a staggering breath, a grin rips across Okutagawa's lips. Why aren't you scared? The words come fumbling out of his mouth before he can decide if it was a thought he wanted to share with the class. Okutagawa hates touch. Atsushi discovered the hard way back when they were in middle school and he grabbed his shoulder from behind too abruptly and purely by accident. It's a miracle he lived to see another day. He made a mental note to himself to always ask before laying a finger near Okutagawa. But now, his skin was between the latter's teeth, his palm is pressed to his cheek, their legs are stacked on top of each other like books on a coffee table, and Okutagawa is beaming like a puppy who just received their first chew toy, and nothing, not a damn thing makes sense. And as his teeth gently release their hold, Atsushi's thumb rests against Okutagawa's plump lips as they say, because it's you, Jinko. His stomach should compete in the Olympics by the way it's doing somersaults from a single phrase. It's as if his brain took the first train out of his town and left his body to fend for itself. The man, he's too stunned to speak. He simply cannot compute anything other than the sharp teeth nibbling at his skin and making its way down the length of his thumb and exploring his palm. Okutagawa is making a job out of it. His sparse eyebrows lay relaxed, but his eyes are keenly focused on the slender hand before him. There's this feeling of flying in Atsushi's head now. He wonders if this is what it feels like to be rid of a brain. Everything is moving too fast, yet not fast enough. His breathing quickens, and he can't seem to look away, even if he wanted to. It's like some unidentifiable force is pulling him in. Okutagawa's fingers find Atsushi's forearm, traveling up the fabric of his linen sweater till they reach the exposed skin of his wrist. Then, Ryu is gently pressing Nakajima's skin into his lips, his mouth, his teeth. There's the slightest change in force, but Atsushi can still feel the apprehensiveness in his touch. Regardless, he gasps. A pocket of air gets caught at the base of his throat, and Okutagawa's half-lidded eyes flit up to him. A firecracker explodes at the pit of his stomach, and Atsushi can't think of anything else other than how those lips would feel against his mouth. Okutagawa, he breathes, and Ryunosuke hums against his palm. It makes his skin tingle and vibrate. He's sure his bones will absorb the reverberation and recall it whenever it deems necessary. Atsushi is searching, tugging, pulling stray words from the depths of his mind while in a giddy haze of desire, speaking. It shouldn't be this hard. I'm about to do something really stupid, Atsushi finally whispers. Okutagawa drops his hand in a moment of panic, the fog in his brain has lifted. Until, of course, the man in front of him mutters, "Thank God." And then Ryunosuke's palms are pulling apart Atsushi's thighs, and he's shifting to straddle Okutagawa's lap. His slender hands are shaking against Lilith's shoulders, and Nakijima's lips are being drawn into another. The teacup was placed on the side table during the rush of it all, at a moment Atsushi can't quite recall. There he is again, right back in the foggy forest of the unknown, and he likes it. Loves it. They halt right before their mouths meet, as if Okutagawa is asking for permission to continue or confirmation that he read the situation wrong and should see himself out. Nakijima gives one simple nod. Then their lips are sliding together as Atsushi's eyes flutter shut. A trembling breath pushes its way out of his narrow nose canal. When the taste of tea leaves and gardenias registers in Atsushi's mind, he comes to the frightening realization that everything he says and does after this moment is completely out of his control. He's not sure when this yearning began, but it's as if the act has soothed his desire, all the while making it burn more furiously. He won't be able to escape the feeling of Okutagawa's fingers running across his thighs and under the hem of his sweater. If Atsushi's being honest, he doesn't want to. It's too good, too right, the way their bodies fit perfectly against one another, the way the flat of Okutagawa's tongue licks over Atsushi's bottom lip before it slips into his mouth. It's cool as it hesitantly slides against his own, and it makes the hairs on the back of his neck stand at attention. Ryu's breath hitches as Nakejima moans. Nails are running down the skin on his back, and shivers follow. It's almost too overwhelming. Atsushi, Okutagawa hums as they pull away from one another. "I like you, by the way," Atsushi whispers before placing a chaste kiss on Okutagawa's cheek. It's word vomit. He can't stop it. "Maybe love you, I'm not sure," he breathes while making a beeline for the latter's lips. This time, Okutagawa seems far less hesitant and far more like he's going to rip Atsushi's sweater off in the next 5 seconds. But he doesn't. There's a tinge of disappointment that becomes overridden by the fact they're completely devouring each other. Okutagawa moans. Jesus Christ, Atsushi never, in a million years, would have thought he'd hear something so vulgar snake its way out of Ryunosuke's vocal cords, but he's damn glad he got to. His hands slide into the back pockets of Atsushi's jeans, fingernails digging into the thick fabric and pulling Nakijima's hips into his own. "Me too," he mutters. "God, me too." Atsushi feels this emotion wash over him, and after very few seconds of contemplation, he decides it must be happiness. He never thought about being with anyone other than Okutagawa, though he only came to terms with it very recently. He figured he would spend the rest of his days living out fantasies in his head rather than acting on impulse, and risk losing the chance to be close to his neighbor, even if only platonically. It's relieving to know he's not swimming alone in this pool of wishful thinking. He hopes this will change something about their strange relationship. As if Okutagawa could read his mind, he says, "Will you go out with me, Atsushi?" Though the stupid little voice in his head tells him he doesn't deserve to be loved, that he'll only bring pain and suffering to this human he cares for so deeply. Atsushi chooses to soothe his anxieties through the method Dazai taught him, by telling them to all the way off. He smiles, looking down at Okutagawa as the other stares up at him, his silver eyes brimming with excitement, while his hands tremble with fear. Atsushi tilts his head to the side, his fingers clasped together at the back of Okutagawa's neck as his thumb caresses his jawbone. The warm-toned, dim floor lamp casts light shadows across his plump cheeks, his swollen lips turned up at the corners. Sitting face to face with Okutagawa like this makes Atsushi feel as if he's laying under a kotatsu on a snowy winter night. The white-haired man spent a majority of his life thinking love would be dramatic, show-stopping, some sort of game of runarounds, push and pull, breaking and falling together until one day everything just clicks. Someone chasing you down after 6 months of leaving you high and dry, declaring their love for you in the pouring rain as you'd hang out the window of your New York City apartment, till you inevitably give in and meet them on the slippery sidewalk as cars splash through the puddles lining the main road. He thought he'd be able to see love unfold melodramatically before his eyes, just like the movies. But that's not true at all. Love doesn't have to be theatrical for it to be true. Love sticks around whether you're withering away at rock bottom or learning to fly at the summit. Love is difficult, but it doesn't leave you questioning your self-worth. They won't live happily ever after, because bumps in the road are bound to happen. But as he stares down at Okutagawa, Atsushi knows if they get a flat tire, they'll both step out of the car and fix it together. That's love. And Atsushi replies with, "I thought you'd never ask." I've read that. I want to explain the meaning of the title, A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence. Because originally it had been called Back to You, then it was called Every Time, and then it got called A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence. So the reason it's called A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence is because what happened to them and how their relationship worked is something that's very common in movies. At least I've seen it a lot, and I love rom-coms. It's my favorite genre of film, and you see it all the time, like two people that don't know they're in love with each other or pretend to hate each other when they're really in love. It's very common in rom-coms, but it doesn't happen in real life, and that's why it's commonly uncommon, because it's super common in film, but it's not very common in real life. Like, that's usually not how love ends up working. Adding that last paragraph in was something that I had realized very recently too, and I liked that it tied so well into the rest of the story. I also like that it tied back to the meaning of the work in the first place. How he mentioned that he thought love was gonna be just like the movies, and it was gonna be something that was like crazy and, you know, like wow, like show-stopping, and like they're gonna run to you and, you know, like play How I Get the Girl by Taylor Swift, you know what I mean? Ended up not being like that, and so then that's why it was called A Commonly Uncommon Occurrence. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm really, really proud of this fanfiction. I hope that everyone enjoyed it as much as I did, because I think it's beautiful. If you did, be sure to give it a big old thumbs up. If you're new, you can subscribe and click the bell. That way every time I post a new video, you'll get notified. I post sporadically, so watch out for them. That's why I turn on your little bell. Also, you can check out all my other socials linked in my card code down below. You can also check out my AO3. It's on there if you want to go read it or bookmark it or kudo it, whatever you want to do, you can totally do that. I will be posting more works. I already have ideas for some new ones. I also will be posting more Moonlight soon. I love you so much. Remember to stay safe, do your homework, and drink water, and I really, really hope you enjoyed it. I love you endlessly. I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, weekend, year. I love you. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!